once they know we are the future, they will know about this. But the young people certainly have the enthusiasm. And I think it's the enthusiasm that really energizes a campaign. It energizes not only themselves and the college campuses, and I've always maintained there will not be a true revolution unless the college campuses are alive and well with those ideas. There has been so many times that the young people, not only those of voting age, but sometimes 13 and 14 and 15, they bring their parents to the office and have them converted into believing and understanding about what liberty is all about. Young people energize a lot of other people and give the energy to the remnant who who are with us already. So this to me is exciting with the energy that we have. It seems to me that they would be begging and pleading for us to come into the party. Most people in this room probably read that book called 1984. It was required reading in high school for so many years. And, I figured it out. I can explain to you where the problem is. 1984 has been read by lot. I would assume everybody in this room read it as a dire warning of what could happen to a society if you're not careful. I think a bunch of people read the book and thought it was a business plan, and they ran for Congress. So many claim they read it, and they claim that they understand this, and yet they do the very things that we have been fighting against and trying to stop. During the campaign, I got a lot of advice. Can you believe that? A lot of advice. Sometimes from strangers, sometimes from our enemies, sometimes from my family as well. But no, the advice that came up from the very well-meaning individuals who were in the category of maybe mainstream Republican. And they would come up and say, Ron, we really like you. We like what you're doing, and we like what you're saying. But if you would only do one thing, if you would change one thing, boy, you would really have a lot more success. You need to change your foreign policy. And of course, if I didn't have the policy that I do have, I don't believe we would be here tonight. Those who do understand it fear it because of the powerful special interest behind a foreign policy of intervention in the military-industrial complex. So it's complex, but they strongly resent this. But it was mentioned already today. I have mentioned it before, but I think it's the best test of my support coming from, more so than anybody else, from the military for our foreign policy. The subject of monetary policy, of course, comes up frequently in Washington on our committee, but off and on over quite a few years. And the question has always been, what are we going to do with the penny? You know, they want to change it to steel, but they can't even afford the steel. If you have a steel penny instead, we're off the gold, off the silver, we're off the copper standard, now we're on the zinc standard, we can't even afford a zinc penny, so now they want to make it out of steel, but the steel, by the time you pay for labor, it costs more than a penny to make a steel penny. So there was an article, a headline came out the other day, it said, can we save the penny? And I got to thinking, well, they don't understand monetary policy or they wouldn't be talking that way. The bigger question that we will be forced to face is, can we save the dollar?
It's worth a
Springfield. Did you ever hear of that? In that bill, they gave more power to the Federal Reserve. They created a Board of Consumer Financial Protection Bureau to protect all the consumers. So they were given a task here a couple of months ago, and it was designed to make things more efficient. That's why this story will tell you why efficiency is not the answer to our problems. We don't want more efficient government. We want to get the government out of the business that they're not supposed to be doing. Board was given the task of simplifying the applications for a mortgage loan because it's complex, and now they're more complex because they had a bubble. They don't know where the bubble came from because it was probably because they didn't fill out enough forms. So they said, what we need to do is simplify these forms. So they went to work, and indeed, they came up with the solution. They provided the solution. It was 1,000 pages long on how to reduce 2 forms to 1 form. All these new regulations placed on everybody who applies for a bill, and they think that will be the solution. But that isn't the solution. The solution is get the government out of our lives and off our back and out of our lives. Serious, and when we have the clout, what we do is we don't tinker around with 1,000 pages to simplify things. What we do is we repeal Dodd-Frank is what we do. And there was another time the Republicans, when they were in charge, they passed the Sarbanes-Oxley. It's cost businessmen $1 trillion with new regulation. But that was when the conservatives were in charge. So when we're getting rid of Dodd-Frank, we get rid of Sarbanes-Oxley as well. I am convinced that we're living at a time that an era is ending. And this is significant because you can be depressed at times when you look at what's happening in Washington. You work hard, you come close to victories, you don't have real victories. It goes on and on. He said, this is too overwhelming. And Washington is responding too slowly. But the end of an era provides an opportunity. And I'm thinking recently about what era are we talking about? And I would say first off, in the last 100 years approximately, what about 1913? That was a beginning of an era. That was a beginning of a time where they said, you know, with the income tax and the new foreign policy, we're going to make the world safe for democracy, and we're going to have a war to end all wars, and we're going to have a Federal Reserve that's going to get rid of the business cycle, on and on. We were going to introduce this wonderful era. Well, guess what? That era is not with us anymore. It's over and done with. We're just looking at the last vestiges of a bad program started in 1913. We will eventually get rid of the Federal Reserve. Something else was started, and that was the domination or the oncoming of communism, 1917. The Bolsheviks taking over, and communism was a panacea. It was all done with good intentions to take care of the people. All those wonderful promises. Well, communism lasted 74 years. It dissipated between 1989 and 1991. People don't talk too much about communism anymore. At the same time, communism brought about, it's hard to count when it gets up into the hundreds of millions. It is estimated that possibly 200 million people died by people who were able to put bad ideas out on the table and look at the tragedy of what happened. That era is over and done with. We are not going to see the world go back to that type of a program again. One of the books that impressed me when I was still in medical school was Dr. Zhivago. And I remember one line in there when Laura was talking to Zhivago, and things were very, very bad during the revolution. And she says to Zhivago, "What a terrible time to be alive." And she was absolutely right, anticipating just what was coming. But I think things are different now. I don't think we should be as depressed. We have more knowledge now than ever before.